Boom, shakalaka. We're back. We're with a way too early NBA preview where I just get to basically tell you why my hopes and dreams for NBA playoffs are going to be futile because I'm a Magic fan. So it's not going to be particularly magical. Joined with my awesome co-hosts here, Grant and Jackson, once again. We're going to walk you through our early NBA playoff thoughts of how this is going to shake out. One, do we really see this is how the bracket's going to kind of finish out? I think so. I don't think this is going to change much, if at all. Like maybe you see a 7 or 8 seed like change, maybe a few spots flip around. But I guess we'll leave that for discussion. You guys have any thoughts there?
I mean, I definitely could see some stuff flipping, especially towards the 8th, 7th, and 6th seeds in both groups. I think things are pretty much closer to being set in stone up front. But there are definitely teams that are outside the playoffs right now that I could see sneaking in the Eastern Conference. I mean, you have the Magic right at the 8th seed. I think they're going to bump up a bit. You've got the Hawks, like Grant said, they're probably going to tank right there. But I definitely think we're going to see some movement up from the Magic, even if they're not going to have much success in the playoffs, like Wells, the major Magic fan here, thinks. But I do think the Heat are going to get bumped down considering what's happened with that roster this season. I think the Magic are probably going to put together a couple more wins through this back end than the Heat are. So it's one take I got there.
Yeah, I think the East top 6 is set. I mean, there'll be some movement between like 6 and 5 and 5 and 4 and stuff, but the top 3 are set in stone. And then the 7 and 8 seed are both like 6.5 games back of the Pistons and 6. So it's going to be almost impossible for any team to really jump in to the playoffs straight without making it through the play-in. But the play-in's obviously one game, so you could see any team from 7 to 10 pretty much get in to 7 and 8. Like that Heat Magic game, the Magic win one game, and all of a sudden they're the 7 seed and not the 8. So most of that is not super important. We're kind of just predicting based on where they're at currently.
Could we see anything really shake up in the West, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, from 6 to 9, there's only a game and a half in between all those teams. So I mean, like the Warriors have been playing well, so you would project with their schedule remaining and stuff that they'll probably stay in the 6, but it's super close from there to the back. So you have the Warriors, Timberwolves, Clippers, and Kings all separated by just a game and a half. And then the Warriors are 3 back of the Rockets and 4 back at the Grizzlies. So going to be somewhat tough to make that jump. But we shall see. And then you have the Nuggets and Lakers exactly tied. So
you've also got the Mavs sitting in that 10th spot there, the Kings, who Sabonis has been out the last few games, I believe, and with the Suns and the Blazers kind of hot on the tails of the Mavericks, and they've been playing good basketball. I don't think either of those teams are really going to slow down, at least for the remainder of the season. So I think there could be some really fun stuff going on in the West at here at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think the Mavericks are going to be like trying to lose pretty much. So
yeah,
you'll see some possible movement up from the Suns or Blazers or something. I honestly think all of those teams, bar the Blazers would probably like to play in a play-in game just to give some of those young guys that experience. But I think the Suns are probably not too keen on making the playoffs, and the Mavericks are probably trying to lose as well. So it'll be interesting. That spot, I think, would have been the Spurs to lose if everything was going according to plan. But obviously that hit a bump in the road.
Just a few.
And you got the Pelicans and the Jazz.
Oh, gosh. All right. Well, before we go too much further into the weeds, let's pretend the bracket is going to finish as so. And these guys are just firm in place. How do we exactly see this playing out?
I mean, I'm just gonna click the Thunder to start off. Clippers have had a good season since getting Kawhi back. They've been even better. It took a sec for them to kind of get to that level, but you also haven't seen Kawhi play with Norman Powell a ton, and the improvement of Norman Powell has been probably their biggest story so far this season. Played a good pace. Harden's had a great season. Zubac has played super well. The connection between those two, the lob threat at the rim has been great. They've had a good season. I don't see them making a ton of noise, especially if they play the Thunder. I think that matchup could pose some threats, potentially to the Lakers or even the Nuggets, I guess, if they somehow crept up or those teams fell down. But for now, given what we have, I think the Thunder probably walk through that series in 5.
I think it'd be one that would go a little longer. I just think that Kawhi's that dude, and then Norman Powell be healthy. You got Harden, Zubats. It's not a bad squad. I'd push them. I'd say 6 or 7.
Kawhi's not playing that full series.
Yeah, it's definitely live. That 100% is live. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. The last week or two, the Clippers haven't been playing great, but you got 50 from James Harden last night, so that certainly helped.
Not enough strippers in OKC for him, unfortunately. All right, Lakers versus Minnesota. We'll go to them next. Okay. Yeah, just put the Lakers through.
Yeah.
I feel like
you think this series is gonna be less close than the Clippers one?
I think that Minnesota is on fraud watch. Like, they've got Julius Randle back now, which is great, but like, that's really it. They don't have a crazy roster outside of like Anthony Edwards' personality. Like when they got rid of Cat, that team kind of died to me.
Yeah, I mean, while I don't fully disagree, I think that trade was a step in the wrong direction. I think this is a tough matchup. If you're the Lakers, I think this is the one between these two that's probably more likely to go 6 or 7, just based on the defense you're going to see from Minnesota in a playoff series. You have as elite of a perimeter defending core as you could find, and that's exactly what you need to guard the Lakers when all 3 of their scoring threats are guards. If you can throw out a lineup of I guess DiVincenzo could be on Reeves or something. That's kind of a wash. But you have Ant and Jaden McDaniels guarding some combination of Luka and LeBron. That's pretty ideal. You have guys that fit the frame of those taller guys, but also can match some of the toughness and strength you're getting between those two. So, I mean, if I'm the Lakers, I don't think it's like an ideal matchup. I do think the Wolves have been lackluster this year and are kind of still putting a lot of the pieces together, but the offensive improvement you've seen from Jaden McDaniels has been huge this last month or so. I believe he had 29 points last night, but he's been averaging close to 20-ish in the last few weeks or so. So that's a good step in the right direction, and he is as elite of a perimeter defender as you're going to find. So when you need to guard guards and wings like you do with LA, the Wolves match up decently, I think.
Yeah, and their interior defense is pretty good, and interior offense is something that the Lakers are having a little bit of trouble coming by these days. Naz Reid has been playing some really good basketball, and depending on the defensive matchup with him too, he plays such a good in and out game that it's like, depending on the roster, he can tear you apart.
Yeah, also he should be able to eat inside as well. I think the Lakers have received a lot of positive PR from
Jackson Hayes isn't the truth.
Off defensive production under the rim. He's like a top 5 ranked big in the last like 2 weeks or however. But if you look at the centers they've played in that stretch, it's like Donovan Clingan, who just doesn't shoot the ball. You have Walker Kessler twice. You have the Mavs without AD, Gafford, and Lively. They did play Zubats, which I guess is the best defensive or best offensive threat they've really faced. But outside of that, I mean, you look at that last game against the Pelicans, and Zion had like 36 points in 26 minutes. So the interior is still wide open in my eyes. I'm not falling for the Jackson Hayes PR just yet.
No, I agree. The interior is definitely going to be an issue. I just think the offensive threats of Luka and LeBron are just ridiculous. And Reeves will be able to benefit off of that. But let's go to the other soft serve matchups here. Let's go with Cavs Magic. I just think my Magic have no chance with how our
I also don't know if that's going to be the matchup that
I don't think that's the matchup they end up on.
Yeah, but yeah, Cavs go through whoever they play.
The Cavs would be the Magic or the Heat. I don't think it really matters. Yeah, Celtics, vice versa.
Same with the C's. Like
that series was super entertaining last year. Went 7. I think the home team won every game, right, Wells?
I think so, but I want to say we had Suggs for that series. I'm not entirely sure his deal.
I think at least part of it. Was an interesting series, so it'll be a good test for Cleveland. As much as I've liked watching Cleveland play this year, and they've been dominant, blowing out teams, and are on pace for a crazy record, I'm not fully bought in on their ability to succeed in the playoffs just yet. I think they're the deserving third favorite in the NBA. That makes sense to me, but I need to see a playoff series where they actually look dominant, because in the past, when they've been a high seed or they've had expectations going to the playoffs, they've almost always crumbled and not looked great against competition that they should be looking more competitive against. So I need to see a playoff series against a team like Orlando that can play good defense and kind of bog things down. So I would like to see this matchup. I think if Cleveland wins this one in 4, or like a gentleman's sweep or something in 5, like I'll feel a lot more confident on their abilities, but kind of just need to prove a little bit more to me, to be honest.
Whoever gets to play the Heat or whatever the team that's not the Magic coming out of the play-in, I think goes to the finals in the East.
Like the Pistons.
I think they're just going to sweep. Like whatever team sweeps is going to the finals.
Heat or something, yeah, you do not want to play Detroit.
Yeah. Like Detroit is a terrible matchup. They're going to take you to 7. They're something I'm confident is going to be fun to watch this season.
Yeah.
But we can quickly go through Celtics. Like they are the favorite in the East if they get to play the Heat. I think it's that simple. Like, yeah, the Magic are just a much different team because of how good they are defensively. The problem is just entirely around the offense. And we're back. All right, we've reorganized this thanks to Grant and his amazing technological skills. Let's do Rockets, Grizzlies. I think it's Rockets. I saw a stat the other day that was just like they had 3 of the best like one-on-one defenders in the NBA. Like,
I'm going Grizz.
They absolutely do. I'm going to take the Grizzlies as well. I just think they're more like ready for this moment. The Rockets have had a good season, but the last like month or two, they've definitely not looked the same as they did to start the season. Things are kind of falling apart just a little bit, and I still don't think they have enough scoring you can rely on. Sengun is a great creator, and Jalen Green can give you 30 on any given night, but he's a little bit too inconsistent. I just don't think they have that guy that you can rely on deep in a playoff game. When you need a bucket, like there's not really a guy that they can turn to consistently. The defense is great. Memphis also has a good defense. I just trust the ability of Jaw and Desmond and Jaren to get a bucket in tough situations more so than I do the Rockets. Still a productive season, though, for the Rockets. You can't complain. Getting a 5 seed is a big improvement. It's the first playoff experience for almost this entire roster, especially all the guys, or definitely all the guys that got drafted in Houston. So it'll be a good experience for them to go through a playoff series. I think this should go like 5 or 6 for sure. I'd say 6, Grizzlies in 6. But
is Grant's mic cutting out a bit for you too, Wells?
Just a tiny bit.
Does this sound good now?
Yeah, sounds good.
But yeah, for that reason, I'm gonna take Memphis there, just given the experience and kind of their familiarity with the playoffs and getting buckets in tough situations.
Yeah, I guess I'll explain myself in the Houston side a bit further. So yeah, we talked about the defenders, but like I think they're a little bit deeper with their overall bag, if you will. It's like, yeah, Santi Aldama's like a nice piece off the bench. You can talk about like the rise of Scottie Pippen Jr. But Cam Whitmore's kind of an interesting character off the bench. He's a very interesting variable to me. Tari Eason, when he's going, like I think he is that kind of guy that you can't be stopped. But mark my words, because we are technically the stock market for sports, so there's got to be somebody I want you to invest in, right? No, we're not going with Charmander going into his next form of Charmeleon. We're going with a breakout star, Amen Thompson. I think he's going to go absolutely ballistic in this matchup. I don't know. I think we're just going to see that next evolution take form, and it's going to be something fun to watch. Like superstar kind of level there.
Defensively, for sure. I don't think his offensive bag is anywhere near developed enough to get buckets with against a set defense that's a good defense as well.
I think this all comes
end of
to
game
like how they attack the
situation,
rim.
need to score. Like I just don't think he is developed enough to get to his spots. Like he's a great slasher and in transition and stuff. He's great, and in some certain instances. I mean, he can get to the rim as well if the defender is lacking, but I just don't know down the stretch. Like he's not a guy that you can really trust to just go get you one as of now. I mean, he can get there. I don't know if that's going to happen just in the playoffs because it's the playoffs.
This is true.
Yeah, it's like Jalen Green, I would say, is probably the Rockets' best shot creator, and even he is like pretty dang inconsistent. He's had some nice hot streaks, but there's also just like they're even younger than the Grizzlies now, both really young teams, but it's like teams with that average age usually have a lot of trouble in the playoffs. Like I think there are just a few less factors. Like I like the Grizzlies core, maybe they're a bit more experienced, like Jaren, Bane, Ja.
Yeah, those guys have been through more of the trials and tribulations of playoff ups and downs. They've won series, lost series. Like they've been together through all of that, which I think is necessary in order to advance in the playoffs. I think you need some of those ups and downs, and Houston will be not like happy, but they'll be satisfied with the season when they
Prince Dylan Brooks in the playoffs.
Do not call Dylan Brooks Sweet Prince. I hate that dude. No offense, Dylan.
I don't like him as well.
I don't know. It's going to be a fun series. I think that's like your series that no one's going to be like I think that's a series no one would be talking about, but low key would be actually.
Oh, it's a great series. Yeah,
mm-hmm. No doubt. It'll be fun.
Are we locking in the Grizz though?
Yeah, because 2-1, you guys win that one. So, let's see. All right, on to the other side of the board, Bucks Pacers. I want to save those ones to look for. I want to save Warriors for the end because I have a feeling we'll be discussing that one probably the most.
I'm taking Indiana personally.
You like Indy? Okay.
I just think the pace is going to be a little bit much for the Bucks to keep up with. The Bucks play at one of the slower offensive paces in the league. Brook Lopez is not a guy in this stage of his career that's tracking back on defense in fast transition. Pacers go 5 on, 5 off, as well as anyone in the NBA. Obviously, it's huge when Halliburton's playing the way he has the last month and a half or so. He's averaging like 23 points and 10 assists. More back to himself post All-Star break, which is great to see. And with him playing that way, this is a tough out for anyone. Giannis is having an unbelievable season that I think has kind of gone under the radar, which should get more publicity than it has, I think. So I'm happy to give him that, but I do think this matchup is not an ideal one. And I think you'll see a lot of changes in Milwaukee this offseason if this series goes as I'm predicting it to.
I'm personally taking the Bucks. I feel like, Giannis a day, turn on a different switch during playoff time. And I think that's pretty much that. Pacers have been kind of, I don't know. I've watched them play a good amount this season. I guess it just feels like they're underwhelming relative to their record. Tyrese Halliburton has kind of been hit or miss. He has been putting together a nice string of games recently. Looking back in that kind of peak Halliburton form, so maybe he carries that into the playoffs. But I don't know. I just feel like the Bucks feel like a solid pick to make it through the first round. Like the refs love Giannis and Dame. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm going to side with Jackson on this one. I like the Bucks as well. I think the Pacers could easily be the correct play, mainly because of the Brook Lopez point. Like he's really old, if we're being honest. But that's really about it. Like I think Giannis is kind of that guy, and I think it's 2 years back to back now. They've basically been first round exits or whatever. I think he's going to want to at least prove that he's not a consistent first round exit. But I do think this series goes on way longer than people want it to. I think it would be like a 7-game series.
We'll be seeing. I will say the Bucks making this round makes it significantly easier for the Cavs to advance than it would be if the Cavs were playing the Pacers. I think the Pacers are a bad matchup for the Cavs with 2 bigs. I think the pace is a lot to sustain throughout a series. So I think the Cavs will be thankful that you guys picked how you did. So.
All right. So Knicks Pistons.
I'm going
with the Pistons.
I'm talking myself into Detroit, but realistically, if the Knicks are healthy, which is a big if in a playoff series, given the minutes they're playing throughout a full season currently, I think the Knicks probably get through this round. Kind of for similar reasons to what we talked about with the Rockets. This will be a successful season for the Pistons, regardless of how this series goes, just getting in without the play-in even, and just kind of putting together a season of good basketball. I know they've won 10 of their last 12 games. They did lose yesterday, but I'm sure the Detroit fans are happy to see just a ton of improvement so far this season. I think JB Bickerstaff has done a great job with that group and has kind of proven to be a guy that can take a team that has low expectations and kind of advance them a lot, which you saw with the Cavs. He's great at developing a team to a certain point, and then it feels like he struggles to get over the hump. So we'll see if he can change that narrative with Detroit down the road, but I think it's just probably a year or two too early for these guys with no playoff experience yet.
I'm going Pistons here. I think Wells is too, so we might be able to advance this on the bracket, unfortunately, Grant, because I don't know. I just feel like not necessarily like I genuinely think they're going to win. I just think if there's going to be an upset on this bracket, it's probably going to be in this game. Like you've got really talented offensive threats that can light it up from three. You've got some star players on the Knicks side that aren't particularly the best defenders, and Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. So I just think if there is going to be an upset, I'm kind of feeling this one. Tibbs also just runs all of his best players into the ground consistently. Who knows if that's going to be a problem here against a team like the Pistons that's not afraid to rotate their players, don't really have any insanely set stars on the roster besides Cade Cunningham. So I think we could get spicy here. What do you think, Wells?
The more I thought on it, the more I was like, you know what, like it probably is the Knicks.
Damn it.
Unfortunately. It's just like your best vet, not best vet, that's the wrong word here, but like Tim Hardaway Jr., man. Like
I was watching that game last night, and Dennis Schroeder and Tim Hardaway Jr. were playing like significant minutes down the stretch, and it was gross.
So it's like that's the part where I'm like, I can't pull the trigger. Because at first I was like, you know, let's do it. I love Oscar Thompson. I love Cade. I'm a big fan of Jalen Duren. And then I thought of that, and I was like, I can't do that. Yeah, I'll go with Big Purr in 6.
I think the Pistons are. It's kind of similar to the Rockets, like I said.
Yeah.
I think also if you're going to rock with a team like the Bucks, where you trust their guys to score and play well in a playoff series, you can't deny the playoff series Jalen Brunson has put together. And although Cat struggled a bit in the playoffs with Minnesota, it still gives you a second level of your offense where you can rely on 3-point shooting and kind of another level of scoring. They excel in all 3 levels of scoring. They have guys that can get to the rim, ton of mid-range guys, and OG and McCall, and then you have guys that can shoot as well. So I just trust the offensive versatility, and I think the defense isn't as big of a worry when you can throw Jalen Brunson on like Malik Beasley and you can put McCall on Cade or something. Like there's ways to maneuver the matchups that I think it shouldn't be too big of an issue, but we'll see.
All right, so we advanced the Knicks here. So this one, are the Warriors frauds? I want to hear both sides of this.
No, but this is not the matchup you want. I would feel better playing the Lakers, the Wolves, the Rockets,
So basically
Grizzlies,
anyone
the
else.
Clippers, and the Thunder. The Nuggets are the one team I don't want to play. I'd rather play OKC. I mean, I'm going to take the Nuggets in this series, which I don't think that makes the Warriors frauds per se. I just think it's not the matchup you want. So we'll see how things shake out. But if this is the matchup at the end of the season, I'm not stoked. There is a matchup between these two teams in a couple weeks. I think it's like March like 17th or something. It's in the next coming weeks, but that'll be very telling, I guess. But hoping the Nuggets stay in the 2, Lakers take the 3, and we see. I mean, the Warriors could potentially even jump up to 5 or something and play the Grizzlies or the Rockets, especially given the Jaren news where he's going to be out like 3 weeks. So I think there'll be a lot of movement in the West. I wouldn't get too hung up on these matchups. But if this is the matchup, I like the Nuggets. I think Jokic should be able to overwhelm a lot of the Warriors' front court. And I think it'd be a close series. I could easily see this going 7 or something. I don't love the stylistic matchup between these two teams at all.
Yeah, I'm going Nuggets too. I'm pretty much just going to defer to Grant's reasoning on that. Plus the wealth of playoff experience from this roster up and down.
I mean, if you want to talk about playoff experience,
true. I guess
that's one thing I can sell you on.
Yeah, that's the one thing I guess that isn't really an advantage.
That is the fun kind of angle of the Warriors. It's like, well, what's Jimmy Butler's resume? Yeah, he basically carried 2 teams by himself to the finals when no one expected him 2 times in a row. He just hasn't gotten there. Oh, and now he's just getting Steph Curry, who's arguably the greatest point guard of all time. Like,
yeah. I mean, we'll see these next couple weeks. There's a stretch of like 3 or 4 days when the Warriors play the Knicks, the Bucks, and the Nuggets. So that'll be
a Blazers
good test to kind of see where we're at, and the Blazers on Monday. True. So those games will be a little bit more telling than some of their past opponents have been. Pistons on Saturday as well.
Pistons actually be really good
tonight, but some good games coming up to kind of see where they're at. But I don't think they're frauds. I just don't like this matchup at all.
I guess a better question is, how would the Rockets do against the Nuggets?
Better than, I don't know. I mean, I think the Warriors will take this series like 6 or 7 probably. And I don't know if the Rockets would do that. I just think the Nuggets are kind of getting slept on a little bit. I think they're probably the second best team in the West, and their odds have slipped below the Lakers and the Warriors, I think, in terms of championship odds. So it's a little bizarre, but I don't know. I think the Rockets are just kind of, it's a year too early for them. Yeah. So I would take most of these teams.
I kind of feel like the
series,
Nugs,
like Memphis, Denver would be fun.
I kind of feel like the Nugs could like 5-1 or 4-out the Rockets.
Yeah, I agree.
That's good. All right, on to the next stage here. Let's start from the top once again. Thunder, Grizzlies. I just think Thunder are just too competent at this point.
I'm Team Thunder as well.
I think the main story of this series would be the pace the Grizzlies want you to play at. They're one of the fastest teams in recent memory. And in a series against OKC, when you're trying to up the amount of possessions and the efficiency that OKC shoots the ball at, you almost want to shrink the amount of possessions. So you give OKC an offense that's been great, more opportunities to shoot the ball, and it's kind of just writing your own exit in this one. So I think Memphis would have to change the style in which they play. But if things go how they've looked most of this season, I think a fast-paced game benefits the Thunder, because you're going to get a lot of open jump shots in transition from some of those guys off the bench that have just been locked in from 3. And yeah, I don't love that matchup for the Grizzlies at all.
Cavs, Bucks. I feel like it's just as straightforward. I'd go with the Cavs. Like, series will probably go longer than expected.
I think the things the Bucks do well kind of line up with the things the Cavs do well. The Cavs just do them better. I think the Pacers would have given a different look at things just because they play a completely different variety of basketball. So you'd get to see maybe the Cavs a little bit uncomfortable, but in this situation, this feels like the Cavs' strengths just outweigh what the Bucks do well.
Agree.
All right, let's scroll down here. All right,
I mean,
Nuggets, Lakers.
We've seen this series a few too many times. Obviously, it'll be different with Luka there, but I think that actually goes against the Lakers in this situation, because instead of having Anthony Davis guarding Nikola Jokic, you have Jackson Hayes, which is not what you want to see. They exchange defense for offense, which, I mean, it's looked good so far. They haven't really beaten a ton of great teams, so I'm interested to see how the Lakers play down the stretch. But I think the Lakers are worse equipped to beat the Nuggets than they were in the past, and they're like 0-3 against them in the playoffs in the last 3 years. So I'm going to be rocking with Denver.
Yeah, I think I'm slightly leaning the Denver side as well. I think the Lakers have a real shot to a ship, honestly, if they can make it past the Nuggets here. But I don't know. Yeah, like Grant said, we've kind of seen it before. The Jackson Hayes mismatch is like should obviously become a problem, maybe even a nightmare for the Lakers. So I do think there's the mismatch advantage or the matchup advantage. Yeah.
Yeah, I just can't find a way that like Jokic just being stopped there.
Yeah, it's you kind of feel, or at least I do a little bit, like something in the water with the Lakers, obviously with LeBron, like, dropping 50K this season with Luka coming onto the Lakers. Like, they want it bad over there, but is it enough?
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled something off, but it's just like it's gonna have to be insane story writing, if you will. Knicks Celtics. Not Knicks Celtics.
Yeah. The way the Knicks have played against the top tier of teams in the NBA has been super concerning. They dominate bad teams, which is a good thing because you rack up wins and you don't have any kind of fluky things that are the reason you're a lower seed than you should be because you dropped a few bad games. But in this situation, you're going to have to take one of those good teams head on, and this is just not the matchup you want. I think in 4 or 5 games against the Celtics and Cavs this year, the Knicks are 0-5 and have lost by an average margin of like 26.5 points. So they've really struggled against the elite of the elite. And that's just not what you want when you have to play a team in 7 games. So I'm gonna just take the Celtics. I don't see a situation where they lose a series like this. They just have too many ways they can beat you. I mean, we saw last night, even without 3 of their 5 best players, they had 2 guys drop 40 and combined for 19 threes. So too many ways to hurt you, and I just think this is where
First
the
time in
Knicks
Celtics history, and they're paying Brown and Tatum how much?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that. I think the Celtics probably cruise in this series.
Yeah, I think there's a very real chance they start out 8-0 if this is their bracket.
I think the Knicks can get you a game, but
yeah. All right, so Thunder Nuggets. All right, I think we could start with the East first because I think that's a little easier. I just think it's a war of attrition in the East and because of how few games the Celtics are likely to play relative to the Cavs, based on how we set this up.
I don't know. I think the Cavs might win this in 10 games. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. I think the Bucks give. If we're going like this, I think the Bucks gives the Cavs maybe 2 games, maybe more.
Yeah, it's possible.
Like I just think there's some.
I am going to rock with the Celtics, though. I think where you were leaning there is the correct lean in this one. I'm just not fully bought in on the Cavs just yet. I need to see. I mean, if they dominate these 2 playoff series, like they could, there's a world where they go into this series a favorite to beat the Celtics, but I'm just not there yet. I think the Celtics have too many stars, too many ways to get you, and I am worried the Celtics tend to play with their food a sketchy amount, and things get weird in series. They play down to the level of competition and end up playing more games than they should have to. But I think given the way things have gone against Cleveland this year, they've found kind of a bit of a rivalry there that should be able to bring some of that fire to this team, which is not something you should have to say in the Eastern Conference Finals, but with this group of dudes, it seems to be something you have to bring up. So I would take the Celtics pretty comfortably, but I'll still go 6, but I like the Celtics to win this one.
Yeah, I'm going C's.
All right, we got them there. Thunder Nuggets. I honestly don't know which way I'd lean at all on this.
I think I'm going to go Nuggets for me, just slightly. It's like I don't think the Nuggets have been talked about enough all season. Like they've maintained pretty much all of the pieces that have made them contenders year over year these last couple of years. And the Thunder, they're definitely improving. They're getting better chemistry because they've done a good job of keeping that core squad together from these last 1 or 2 years where they've been competitive. They've still got Chet, they've still got Shai, they've got Jalen Williams. So they're a really good young team. It's just like it comes down to is the experience edge going to be too much for them? And I kind of still think it might be.
Yeah. If you're watching this video, tune in Sunday and Monday. These 2 teams will be playing a back-to-back. One's in Oklahoma and one's in Denver. So definitely check that out. It'll be a very telling experience. These teams have split their 2 games so far, but 2 more matchups in quick succession coming up here in just a few days. So that will allow us to learn a lot about this, I think. But if I just had to look at it right now, I'm going to take the Thunder. I just think they're a better team. The Nuggets have been great, but a lot of that scoring has been streaky. You have stretches where Michael Porter Jr. looks like the worst player in the NBA, and then stretches where he averages 25 points a game. Aaron Gordon has taken a clear step back, and we need to see Jamal have one of those vintage Jamal playoff series in order for me to fully buy back in, because he was terrible last year in the playoffs and has had a good season, but it hasn't been up to the level of production we've seen during that finals run they had a few years ago. So yeah, I kind of need to see a bit more, but I'm gonna take the Thunder. So Wells, I think you're the tiebreaker here. I'm curious what you think.
I'm gonna go with Thunder as well. I chose them last year, so it only would be right that they get there this year. It's more about just the coaching than anything. I think Diagonal's just too much of a tactician, and this is something that we're gonna get to see in the finals. Is like, how are they gonna play their chess pieces, if you will. And the thing that's the issue with me is that it's just like they have all the right pieces in Denver, but it's just like I feel like this is almost Nuggets 2.0 in a sense of just it's like this is a more modernized version of like how to make this team more efficient, and that's where we're at now with the finals between the Thunder and the Celtics. Honestly, I'm kind of split here. My initial gut lean honestly kind of wants to go with the Celtics.
Agreed.
I'm done.
I think going back to that past series, you could see a situation where the Nuggets look dominant, playing 2 good teams, 2 really good basketball teams, and you're confident with them going into this series as well, and kind of some of that playoff experience shines through against Thunder. That's the reason I'm going to take the Celtics. I think they've seen every permutation of a playoff series. That group, at least the 2 dudes up top, and White and Drew have been there for a little bit now. But it seems like the Celtics just kind of know how to win playoff series at this point. They've kind of worked out all the kinks that they were dealing with a few years ago in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum's kind of rise to this point. And I think the Thunder, although Thunder fans will be disappointed, obviously you're a real contender, but huge progress from last year when that team just kind of got dominated by the Mavericks in that playoff series. You get to the finals, still super young core, tons of assets. I think you'll see some things be moved around in the offseason. The Thunder will be back and will be the title favorites and the rightful title favorites the year after. But I just think with the core of guys the Celtics have more or less in their prime, it's just too much to take down this year for them.
Yeah, I just don't like, and I don't think any team in the league really. I mean, you could argue the Cavs maybe have made enough improvements year over year to compete with the Celtics, but it's like I just haven't seen enough changes from anybody really to compete with that level of playoff play. It's like the Celtics roster and stars, none of them are aging. They've only bolstered it. So there's literally just no reason for me to go anywhere else. Like I think it's gonna be the C's.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I just think you have to go with the Celtics. I wouldn't be surprised if we see like the Nuggets. Honestly, like we see the Thunder, somebody gets injured on their team, and the Nuggets makes the finals. I think that's very live. In which case, I actually think that's a more interesting finals.
I would agree.
In terms of just watching, like seeing the Thunder play in the finals, I think would be fun for maybe the more analytical viewer. Getting Jokic in there would also be great. I think they could give him a hell of a run as well. The way the Celtics play, they kind of just like go through weird spurts of not shooting the ball well, and they're super, super reliant on how well they shoot from 3. So I think any team you get here, it's going to go at least 6. So you just gotta.
Well, the thing that like
hope you can steal a few
sticks to me with Jokic specifically is like when it matters most to him, that's when he reaches his ceiling. We saw it in the Olympics specifically. He took a literal team of barbershop men or whatever, and basically
Bogdanovich.
Well, Bogdanovich too.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were very much contending with the USA,
Yeah.
which is considered to be like our best team supposedly of all time. So I don't know. He's always a hard one to kind of go against. I hope the Warriors don't get the Nuggets in the first round, because if so, I might
Me
just
either,
cash my
brother.
ticket right now.
Me either.
We'll see. But if they honestly if the Nuggets get out, I actually think they are kind of a very fun team to potentially be live.
I would love to play the Lakers in the first round. Love.
How do you think they honestly would do against the Celtics? Would they just get ran through, you think?
Us or the Lakers?
The Warriors.
As well as some of these teams could hope to. I mean, I'm not wouldn't be super confident going into that series, but I think we'd pose as much of a threat as any team would almost. I mean, a lot of these guys have the experience of playing these dudes a couple years ago. Jimmy has had a ton of success against the Celtics in the playoffs when he's just been on his own. So, I mean, I like our chances. The Celtics should be favored, but give them a run.
Like, I guess my big thing always goes back to this: you just don't have a center. It's like,
yeah, which against Boston isn't the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
Against Denver, it's an issue.
Yeah, Quentin postseason maybe. That's what he has. It's a whatchamacallit type of series because he's from Boston College.
Mm-hmm.
He goes electric.
Homecoming.
Yeah, homecoming series.
I think he's from Poland or something, but
probably
we'll say Boston's his home.
Yeah, that BC connection. All right. Well, that is how our kind of prediction is going here for way too early NBA playoff bracket. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Make your investments accordingly, whether that's fading us on players you think are going to make it to the playoffs or simply just investing in the ones that we think are going to do well. So until next time, we'll talk to you all later. Peace now.
Peace.
Peace.